Hello, I'm Dr. Alberto Square, and welcome to this short presentation about how to design a research in social science. If you watch this video, you must have an interest towards designing a piece of social science research. But what is the aim of a research? The aim is to answer a question about a topic in any particular social science discipline, be it economics, sociology, political science, or others. We answer the questions through a carefully designed research process. In this presentation, I share the general features of the process through which I usually design my research projects. For the sake of simplicity, research design consists of four basic component parts. A research is about a topic of interest, it includes a research question, it builds on empirical evidence, and it offers empirical findings. For example, a few years ago I carried out a study on why public services reform happened, which was empirically based on experiences of commercialization of healthcare and education services in Saudi Arabia. I will review the design features of the study as a way to illustrate the role that the four basic component parts of the research design play. The study was about a particular topic, namely public services reform. More precisely, the topic was the commercialization of public services, that is, the process through which public services that are originally funded and controlled by a public agency are converted into for-profit services. The definition of a research topic is about drawing the boundaries of what the research is about. Other topics are beyond the scope of the research. The study also included a research question that was why does commercialization of public services take place in neo-patrimonial system? The research questions zoom into a particular puzzle that arises within the topic. In the study, the puzzle referred to the occurrence of public services reforms within countries that are characterized by neo-patrimonialism. Neo-patrimonialism is a social system where some individuals, the patrons, use public resources to secure the loyalty of clients. The puzzle arises because neo-patrimonial systems tend to be fairly conservative, therefore we may not expect reforms to take place. Next feature of the study research design was the identification of relevant empirical evidence. In the search for empirical evidence, I take into consideration what I call a principle of instantiation, that is, empirical evidence must be an instance of the topic under consideration. I had to search for instances of processes of commercialization of public services. Let me digress a bit here. Sometimes, the selection of empirical evidence results in the identification of the whole population of instances of a particular topic, as if I selected all experiences of commercialization of public services that ever happened. Quite often, selecting the entire population is not feasible or practical, however. A very different selection strategy would be the one to select one instance only of the topic under consideration, that is, to pick just one instance, one case, of commercialization of public services. These two options stand like extreme or polar cases within the range of options about what empirical evidence is selected in a research design. Another option includes the selection of a representative sample of the population, which allows to investigate a portion of a population while being able to infer properties which would apply to the entire population by statistical means. One more option is the one to select two or just a few instances of the topic, that is, a few cases which could be then compared and contrasted with each other. Criteria are employed to select which case is selected or which a few cases in order to draw from the empirical evidence results that are analytically relevant to the research question, but I will not go into details here. The study that I picked as an example looked at the empirical evidence of commercialization of public services in neo-patrimonial systems by selecting the experience of commercialization of healthcare and education that took place in Saudi Arabia over the previous about 10 years. The evidence is then analyzed in order to draw empirical findings, that is, an explanation about why commercialization of healthcare and education services took place. Empirical findings are about the specific instances of the topic in the empirical domain. What is performed then is a process of abduction, that is, of inference to the best explanation, in order to make the empirical findings relevant to address the theoretical question. What I mean by abduction here, briefly put, is that empirical findings are used as a premise for arguing beyond the empirical domain, especially by adding an explanatory narrative to the evidence. Some people may think that what we do here is an induction from empirical knowledge to abstract knowledge, although induction typically lacks an explanatory argument component. So eventually the study resulted in an answer to the research question, which came in the form of propositions about plausible factors and conditions that explain why public services may be commercialized in your patrimonial systems. A final step of the research design is the one to argue about the contribution that the answer to the research question provides to the topic of interest. A study should ultimately result in an original addition to the existing body of knowledge. This has implications on the positioning of research and on the arguments that are made about the strengths, weaknesses, and limitations of a study. The design of a research requires that all component parts nicely fit together. I presented the design of a research as a sequence of component parts here, but the process of designing a research is not so linear. The definition of the topic, the formulation of the research question, the selection of the evidence, and the analysis of the evidence need to take into consideration how each of these component parts affects another. Sometimes multiple adjustments need to be made before all component parts of a research design form a coherent whole. Well, this video provides just a bird's eye view of the process of research design, but others will follow and zoom into details and more specific design issues. That's all so far, and thank you for your attention.